The New York Giants took tight end Evan Engram in the first round of the 2017 NFL Draft, but he hasn't truly lived up to expectation. Now my question is, what exactly did the Giants expect of Evan Engram? So they took him as a tight end, and that's what many people thought that he would play, and that's basically what he's been in the NFL. The issue, or maybe the confusion here, is that Evan Engram in his final season at Ole Miss played 73% of his snaps from the slot. And from the slot, he led all draft-eligible tight ends in yards per route run. So not only did he play a high volume of snaps from the slot, but he was incredibly effective when doing so. When Engram was drafted, John Gruden, who was a member of ESPN at the time, said this, quote, "That's ridiculous calling him a tight end because he never lines up tight on the end of the line of scrimmage. He's a slot receiver." End quote. Oddly enough, since joining the Giants, they haven't used him in the way that he was most successful back in college. If we look at his most productive season so far in the NFL, 2018 was that year. Engram had his highest catch percentage that season, his highest yards per target and yards per reception. He led all pass catchers in average separation yards, and he was second among all pass catchers in yards after catch per reception. During that season, 51% of his snaps came as an inline tight end. 36% of his snaps came from the slot, and 12% of his snaps came as an outside receiver. So in total, 48% of his snaps came either in the slot or on the outside as a receiver. Interesting to note that in 2019, 65% of his snaps came as an inline tight end. 32% from the slot, which was down from 36 the year before, and just 2.5% as an outside receiver. So in total, 34.5% of his snaps came as a slot or outside receiver in 2019, whereas 48% of his snaps came as a slot or outside receiver in 2018. In 2018, he was more productive. And that could have had something to do with the fact that he was playing as more of a receiver than he was a traditional tight end. Now, the idea of increasing Engram's workload in the slot or out wide isn't just about production. It could also help lessen the wear and tear that the traditional tight end position might be taking on him. He's missed 13 games over the last 2 years, and I'm going to show you a chart. When Evan Engram was drafted, look at the measurements in terms of percentile when it comes to his size, height, and weight among tight ends, all the way at the bottom. He's an incredibly small tight end. So you can certainly make the argument that he is not physically built to be a traditional NFL tight end, specifically when it comes to run blocking and working in the trenches. And it could very well be the reason why he's had trouble staying healthy. In the past, I brought up the idea of converting Engram to a wide receiver, and he could still play tight end here and there, but for the most part, allowing him to play most of his snaps at wide receiver. And if you look at the Giants roster, he would be a good fit in terms of what they have at wide receiver right now, because Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard are smaller, shifty slot receivers. Darius Slayton is their big play threat, but they really don't have much size at wide receiver, and Engram obviously brings that, being 6'3", 240. His 40 time during the combine was 4.42, so he obviously has that straight line speed and overall size to be a deep ball and red zone threat. The Giants also have a serviceable starting tight end in Caden Smith, so if they did choose to move Evan Engram to wide receiver, they would at least have someone to fill his role at tight end. Engram clearly possesses big-time playmaking ability, but the narrative has already been created that he can't stay healthy. And in order to change that narrative, he may just have to change positions. So that's all I got. Vincent Rapisardi, BigBlueUnbiased.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Vince Rapisardi. I also have a podcast, the Big Blue Unbiased Podcast, which is available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and many other platforms. If you like this kind of content, give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Vincent Rapisardi, BigBlueUnbiased.com.